Today, I'm going to tear the official history to shreds and show you what has been hidden for centuries, why it was done, why we are kept in lies, and most importantly, what is really being concealed from us. This video is not just a collection of facts, it's a blow to the fake picture of the past. Everything will be brief and to the point. We will talk about the most fascinating moments of the past. The Barabar caves, polished in granite with machine-like precision, identical temples all over the world, from Lebanon to Paris and the USA, star-shaped cities laid out with advanced geometry, underground tunnels beneath Moscow and other megacities, the Tartarian Empire, which supposedly never existed, yet had its own flags, navy, and autocracy, atmospheric electricity, and the technologies that were taken away, and a system that made people pay for everything, even for what should be free by birthright. This video is not entertainment, it is a reminder of the truth you once knew but have forgotten. Watch closely. And now let's begin. Chapter 1. The Barabar Caves, India. The Barabar Caves. They are over 2,000 years old. But when modern engineers visit, they are stunned. Everything is carved out of granite, one of the hardest materials on the planet. Not in sandstone, not in limestone, but in granite. And it's carved as if a machine passed through with perfect precision. Laser measurements show a margin of error on the walls of only 0.3 millimeters. For comparison, a modern construction foreman will tell you a 3% margin of error is considered normal for concrete walls. But here, more than 2,000 years ago, in granite, by hand, no, this wasn't done by hand. You can't do something like this with a hammer and chisel. This is machine processing, precision, high-tech work. And now imagine, this is just one group of caves, lost somewhere in India, far from the cities. How many more such sites are hidden in the mountains, jungles, and deserts? Why does official science still call these caves wine cellars or shepherd's shelters? A wine cellar with mirror-like walls with perfectly tuned acoustic resonance, where sound travels through the hall like in a cathedral or a Dolby surround studio. This is not a cellar, it is a trace of an ancient civilization that we are forbidden to know about. Or perhaps it is a reminder of technologies that we have yet to remember. Chapter 2. Temples of the previous civilization. All over the world, the same temples, different countries, different eras, but identical architecture, one style, one concept. Lebanon, Baalbek, Cyclopean slabs weighing 800 tons. Greece, Parthenon, Temple of Hephaestus. Rome, Vatican, Temple of Venus. Sevastopol, Crimea, Chersonesus. Armenia, Temple of Garni. Austria, Theseus Temple in Vienna. France, Paris, Church of Madeleine. Germany, Walhalla. USA, a building in the style of Apollo's temples. And traces of the same style can even be found in Japan and Peru. They are thousands of years old. Some are 2,000, others 3, and in Baalbek at least 4,500 years old. And all of this was built without machinery, without cranes, without lifts, just with carts and wagons. It's impossible. Such columns, such beams, and perfect symmetry. This can't be built by hand, by eye, without advanced technology. Different peoples, isolated from each other in different centuries, could not have built them and achieved the same result. That means there was a single source of knowledge, one force, one civilization, one level of understanding of engineering and energy. And this hasn't disappeared. These technologies aren't lost, they're simply inaccessible to the ordinary slaves settled on the ruins of a nuclear test site. In reality, all these secrets of the world are kept in the Vatican Library, thousands of forbidden books, documents that will never be shown to the general public. But we're building our own library on Telegram. If you have rare books, archival documents, or leaks, send them in. And if you want to take a look, visit my channel, and in the pinned message you'll find all the ancient manuscripts, vanished editions, and forgotten knowledge. Our library is open to those who seek the truth. Welcome, welcome. And most importantly, it's absolutely free. Chapter 3. Star Cities. Just 250 years ago, there existed on Earth a unified network of fortresses laid out in the shape of perfect stars. The Peter and Paul Fortress is one of the most recognizable examples in Russia. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. Palmanova, Italy, a star with 9 bastions. The Brest Fortress, Orenburg, Kiev, Omsk, traces remnants of geometry that couldn't have been built just by chance. The layouts of ancient cities, Turin, Antwerp, Strasbourg, all of them show the same structure. Strasbourg, year 644. Distinct bastions, symmetry. But today, the walls are gone. Yet if you turn on satellite view, you'll see the outlines remain, as if something destroyed them carefully, leaving no chance for restoration. Near Rostov, we see outlines buried in mud. In Croatia. Here in Kazakhstan, in the village of Stanovoye, we see the outline of a star with 6 bastions. Exactly the same, as if they all shared a single blueprint, as if the architecture was unified. And nearby, there are round lakes, not natural, but strikingly even craters, like traces of impacts, perhaps nuclear, or maybe from some kind of energy weapon we don't know about. Tumen, you can see the same star-shaped outlines. And again, there are lakes nearby. Such craters can be found next to these kinds of forts all over the world. And if you connect them on a map, you get an entire network. Blows of such force would bury entire cities under a thick layer of mud. And there you have Moscow, St. Petersburg, Omsk, Tumen. They are literally being dug out. A layer of earth several meters thick, as if a wave swept across the entire territory. And some people just call this a historical subsidence. But this isn't subsidence, it's a catastrophe. Chapter 4. Nature after the catastrophe. Blows like that would turn anything into tundra, destroying all living things. And so today we see trees that are no more than 200 years old. Pay attention to the trees in all the countries of the CIS, Europe, and Turkey. Pine forests and birch groves are no older than 200 years. It's as if all the forests have grown anew. Why is it that in India and Asia you can still find ancient trees, but here there are only young ones? The world we live in is not just a construction, it's a rebooted landscape, where even the trees are newcomers. And all of this has buried the traces of a civilization that knew how to build stars out of stone and knew things we've forgotten. Chapter 5. Cologne Cathedral. Germany, Cologne Cathedral. The official date construction began as 1248. The 13th century, the Middle Ages, height 157 meters. This is one of the tallest Gothic cathedrals in the world. But now let's just compare what we build today, in the 21st century. Panel high-rises, glass boxes that start falling apart after 40 years. And the Cologne Cathedral has stood for more than 700 years. Made of stone blocks, lifted to the height of 15 or 20 stories. In an era when there were no cranes, no lifts, no electricity. How is that possible? Where are the blueprints, the technologies, the plans? Where are the copies of these cathedrals in our time? And after all, the Cologne Cathedral is not the only one of its kind. The Milan Cathedral, Chartres, Salisbury, Reims, Strasbourg, St. Vitus Cathedral in Prague, St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna, all of them seem to be molded from the same template, yet scattered across Europe like traces of a vanished civilization. Official history says they were built in stages over several centuries, with generations of stonemasons coming and going. But who today could even build a copy with such height, such ornamentation made from massive stone blocks, without modern technology? We cannot. Yet supposedly they managed to do it, in dirty tunics, with ropes and donkeys pulling carts. Chapter 6. Brick. It would seem to be an ordinary material. But if you look more closely, it's not that simple. Old buildings, brickwork without reinforcement, without concrete belts, yet they stand for 200 or 300 years or more. Bricks of perfect shape, identical size, and the mortar is minimal, as if they were pressed together to within microns. Today, no one builds masonry like that. Modern houses crumble in 50 years. But these buildings have outlasted empires, wars, and revolutions. But the most interesting part isn't on the surface, it's underground. Beneath Moscow, the Moscow region, St. Petersburg, Nizhny Novgorod, Kazan, and Omsk, there are extensive brick tunnels, arched, in perfect style like a subway. Only no one ever officially built them. Who made them? When? Why? In some places, the subway was built right above these tunnels, and in others, they were simply buried, flooded, and forgotten. And no one can explain why there is ready-made infrastructure beneath every major city. It's all because we were simply settled into already existing cities, given new passports, given new names for these streets, and everything old was hidden away. And the brick remains silent, but it remembers everything, and we are only just beginning to piece the facts together.
Nice hit, but bricks don't hit back.
Friends, you know, I've been involved with crypto for a long time. Sometimes I made money, sometimes I lost. I was buying Bitcoin before it went mainstream. Today there are many crypto projects where an unprepared user can lose their money. Through trial and error, I've gained a wealth of experience in this field, and I decided to share it with you on my new Telegram channel, Crypto Zamaznoy. There I explain the most important things in simple terms and plain language. How to buy and sell cryptocurrency without risk, how to avoid scammers, what staking, liquidity, and market cap are. In many countries, you can already use it to pay for goods, services, and even real estate. In a world where we are increasingly being driven into digital slavery, it's important to understand how alternative financial systems work. Knowing what crypto is means preserving your freedom. And I'll show you how to use it. Subscribe. Chapter 7. Tartaria. All these star forts, cathedral buildings, underground tunnels, and identical architectural styles from Europe to Asia, this is no coincidence. These are traces of a single civilization. Officially, we are told Tartaria is just an old name for certain territories. Just empty geography, just a word on a map. But then a question arises. How does a simple name have admiralty flags, imperial standards, and naval charts with a state emblem? I didn't tell you about the 200 years of our civilization for nothing. Here is a French table of naval flags from the 18th century. Not one, but two flags of Tartaria. They are different, clearly marked. Next to them are the flags of France, Spain, Britain, and Tartaria. And here comes a Dutch table from the same period. And again, there are two flags of Tartaria. Moreover, the flags don't look like someone's fantasy. They are designed in the style of admiralty registers for the international maritime recognition of the Tartarian Empire, an autocratic formulation which is not used for fictional territories. If it's just the name of a land, why draw an imperial coat of arms? And especially, why would there be a naval flag for a state that supposedly never existed? This is an empire that is not taught about in schools. A civilization that stretched from the Urals to the Pyrenees, across what is now Russia, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and Europe. Chapter 8. Forgotten Technologies. All these star-shaped cities belong to the Tartarian Empire. It was a network of autonomous cities, each of which lived independently, had access to knowledge, technology, and energy. Energy from the air. Atmospheric electricity, what we now call ether. They knew how to work with it. And mercury, an element that is outlawed today, played a key role in their technologies. Mercury plus ether, a stable positive charge. Safe, renewable, infinite. But if you live in an autonomous city where there is free energy, healing from nature, food from the earth, everything around you is yours. You don't pay for anything. And if you don't pay, that means you're not a slave. Now look around you. You pay for electricity, even though it's in the air. You pay for medicine that doesn't cure the disease, but only the symptoms. You can't pick herbs from the forest. You have to buy a pill with a logo on it. You pay for chips, for cola, for clothes, for brands. You even pay for permission to live because there's no other way. And this video isn't a theory. It's a classic that every self-respecting person should know. The history we've been given isn't our history. It's someone else's fairy tale written for convenience. But the truth is right here. In the stone, in the sky, in the earth, in what makes us overlook it. See you next time.